bioresonance adjustment that activates your body's self-repair is switched off right now as you watch this video. Your organism carries complete regenerative mechanisms, but they remain inaccessible because the nervous system is operating in a functional mode that prioritizes containment, not repair. Every attempt at healing you've made has run into this invisible barrier. The self-repair recalibration you're about to learn interrupts that pattern at its root, before the body adapts even further to an error it has already learned to treat as normal. You're going to discover how your torso reveals that it's operating in the wrong mode, and you'll perform a somatic ritual that forces the transition into a regenerative state. When this shift happens, the body responds involuntarily. Breathing reorganizes itself. Tension releases without effort. If you leave now, you'll miss the chance to experience this inversion in your own system. What was calibrated to keep you functioning is about to be reconfigured so you can actually restore yourself. The phenomenon that blocks self-repair has a precise name in both ancient and modern physiology: containment mode. When the organism faces prolonged threat, it learns to function extremely well inside a state that ensures survival but prevents regeneration. This mode is not a disease. It's not weakness. It's not a moral failure. It's an intelligent calibration that became permanent. The body that should alternate between protecting itself and rebuilding itself forgets how to return to the second state. The alchemists called this the endless black work, the stage of transmutation in which fire consumes resources without ever transforming matter. In Hermetic texts, the image was that of a cracked vessel, a container unable to seal the energy required for change to occur. While there is leakage, the work cannot advance. The organism turns in on itself, maintaining structure but unable to evolve. Containment becomes a prison disguised as stability. In the physical body, this dynamic appears as rigidity in the solar plexus, breathing that never drops below the chest, ribs that resist expansion, a jaw clenched for no obvious reason. The autonomic nervous system remains in chronic vigilance or masked collapse, states where the absolute priority is conservation, not repair. Bruce McEwen named this accumulation allostatic load, the physiological weight that builds when stress never truly resolves. Stephen Porges mapped how the vagus nerve organizes this hierarchy of states, showing that safety is not merely the absence of danger, but a reading the body makes before the mind becomes aware of it. When that reading stays locked in threat, every attempt at healing meets a system that has no internal permission to change. This is where bioresonance enters as a principle of coherence. The organism responds only to what aligns with the whole system, not to what the mind wants. That feeling of doing everything right and still going nowhere is born exactly from this mismatch between conscious intention and autonomic calibration. One woman discovered this after years of trying to solve with her thoughts what could only shift through the body. Her story illuminates the path you're about to walk. Linda was 41 years old and worked as an accountant at a mid-sized firm in the suburbs of Minneapolis. Her routine followed a predictable rhythm: spreadsheets, deadlines, quarterly reports, yet inside, something remained in slow combustion, an exhaustion that didn't match the actual effort of her days. She woke at 6, worked her 8 hours, came home, and still felt as though her body never left the office. Her solar plexus stayed tight, as if carrying a weight no exam could detect. For nearly 4 years, Linda followed what seemed like the logical path. 2 years of cognitive behavioral therapy, then an 8-week mindfulness program, restorative yoga on Tuesdays and Thursdays, dietary changes, sleep supplements. Each approach brought temporary relief, days when breathing felt easier, nights when sleep came without resistance. But the pattern always returned. The rigidity in her torso settled back in, her breathing climbed up into her chest again, and the fatigue returned like a permanent tenant. The cost showed up in the details. In meetings, her voice came out smaller than she knew it could be. At home, her patience ran out quickly with the children. Simple decisions demanded a disproportionate amount of energy. And Linda began to notice she was managing her life the same way she managed accounts, cutting expenses, avoiding risks, never truly investing. Her body functioned, but something essential remained locked in conservation mode. The shift began in an unlikely place. During an audit at an integrative medicine clinic, Linda came across an internal protocol that mentioned autonomic recalibration and bioresonance as approaches for treatment-resistant fatigue. The document described how the nervous system could permanently adapt to a containment state that blocks regeneration. She photographed the pages and spent 3 weeks researching until she found the specific ritual the protocol only hinted at. On her first attempt, alone in her bedroom after the house had gone quiet, Linda placed her hand over her sternum and held a slow, unforced breath. For several minutes, nothing changed. Her mind wanted to adjust, correct, do something differently. Then, without intention, something softened at the center of her torso. A subtle release passed through her solar plexus, and her breath dropped on its own, deeper than she could remember feeling. What she discovered in the minutes that followed begins now in your own body. The self-repair recalibration ritual works through a single, continuous gesture that you sustain until an internal shift occurs. Choose a comfortable position, seated or lying down, where your torso can rest without effort. Bring one hand to the place where containment feels strongest, usually the center of the sternum or the band just below the ribs, where the diaphragm meets the solar plexus. Do not search for the right spot analytically. Let the hand settle where the tissue feels densest, most guarded, most reluctant to be touched from within. The touch should be steady and grounded, like marking presence in your own territory. It is not aggressive pressure, and it is not a light caress. It is contact that signals to the nervous system that attention is being held there, without negotiation, without urgency. While the hand remains anchored, begin a slow nasal inhale, allowing the breath to descend toward the belly without forcing depth. The exhale leaves through the mouth, soft and unstrained. Breath and touch move together as a single integrated gesture. In the first minutes, resistance will likely appear. The touch may feel as if it cannot penetrate, as though an invisible barrier stands between your palm and the inside of your torso. The breath may insist on staying high, expanding the chest instead of dropping downward. The mind will want to correct posture, adjust technique, evaluate whether you are doing it right. Recognize these signs as the exact signature of containment mode, the organism revealing that it is still operating in vigilance, prioritizing control over repair. Your task is not to overcome this resistance. It is to remain present as it dissolves. Keep the gesture steady without changing anything, without adding technique, without seeking sensation. Recalibration happens through continuity, not effort. If the mind says nothing is happening, let the thought pass like a cloud. If there is an impulse to shift position, allow natural movement, but keep the hand anchored and the breath flowing in the same rhythm. What distinguishes this ritual from other practices is the absence of steps or stages. You are not building toward anything. You are not progressing through levels. You are sustaining a simple coherence until the nervous system recognizes it can leave conservation mode. The paired gesture of touch and breath creates a field of stability that the organism eventually accepts as safe. When that happens, the shift arises from within, involuntary, unforced, beyond conscious decision. Stay attentive to the markers that signal the transition. A subtle drop in tension where your hand rests. A softening that seems to release from the inside, without you doing anything differently. The breath suddenly descending on its own, deeper than it could before. A yawn that arises without reason. A sigh that escapes without intention. A gentle warmth spreading through the torso. These signs are not goals to chase. They are responses that emerge when containment begins to dissolve. Before moving into the second part of the ritual, there is something you need to know about Linda. That night, after the first wave of softening moved through her solar plexus, she remained still for several minutes, simply witnessing what was happening without trying to control it. Her breathing continued to drop in slow waves, each one deeper than the last. For the first time in years, her torso no longer felt like armor she had to carry. In the weeks that followed, the changes became noticeable. Her sleep, once light and fragmented, took on a different quality. She woke up rested, not just having slept. The chronic tightness in her solar plexus began to ease, appearing only during real stress, instead of as a constant state. In work meetings, her voice started to take up space again, and decisions that once demanded disproportionate effort began to flow with less internal friction. The containment mode was still there, but it was no longer the dominant pattern. What Linda experienced during those weeks is exactly what is available to you now. The first part of the ritual created the conditions for transition. The second part consolidates the shift and teaches the organism how to return to the regenerative state. Keep your hand on the anchor point, but now bring your attention to the quality of the breath that has emerged. Notice whether there is more internal space, whether the air moves downward with less resistance, whether the torso feels more inhabited. Now add a subtle layer to the gesture. On the exhale, allow your hand to apply a barely perceptible micropressure, as if sealing the anchor point with an intention of permanence. This is not added force, it is focused presence. That micropressure tells the nervous system that the change being felt is not accidental but chosen. The organism learns through coherent repetition, and this minimal gesture reinforces the new pattern that is taking shape. Maintain this expanded version of the ritual for a few more minutes, keeping the breathing rhythm steady and the micropressure present with each exhale. Notice whether other signs of deepening appear: warmth, spreading beyond the torso, a pleasant heaviness in the limbs, a sense of settling into yourself. Some bodies respond with involuntary movement, small adjustments in the spine, subtle tremors that last a few seconds and then fade. Allow all of it without interpretation. The ritual completes itself when you notice that the nervous system has taken over the process. The breath remains deep without effort. The torso stays softened without vigilance. The mind grows quiet without being commanded to do so. This is the marker that recalibration has occurred. The organism has left containment mode and entered the state where self-repair can operate. Do not extend the practice beyond this point out of a desire to do more. Slowly begin to reduce the pressure of your hand on the anchor point, but do not remove contact yet. Let the palm rest lightly as you register from the inside the state you are in now. Gently compare it to how you felt before you began, not to judge, but so the body can register the difference. This quiet comparison is part of how the nervous system learns to return to the regenerative state more easily in the future. The core practice of the ritual is now complete. What follows is the moment to seal this experience into the nervous system, creating an anchor you can access whenever containment tries to reassert itself. The organism that has just gone through this shift is more receptive to forming new patterns. The next few moments consolidate what was experienced and turn a single event into a resource you can return to in daily life. The marker that confirms recalibration is present now in your torso. Notice the quality of your breathing, whether it drops into the abdomen without effort, whether there is more space between the ribs than before. Sense whether the solar plexus has lost its armored density, whether the sternum feels more inhabited, whether a gentle warmth remains where your hand was resting. These signals are not imagination or wishful thinking. They are the physiological signature of a nervous system that has left containment mode and entered regenerative coherence. To anchor this state in a portable way, bring your thumb to the center of the sternum and apply a firm micropressure for 5 seconds while slowly releasing the breath through the mouth. Repeat this gesture 3 times in a row, each time sensing the point of contact as a seal that imprints the new calibration into your system. This minimal gesture can be done anywhere, at work, in traffic, standing in line, without drawing attention. It works as a direct access key to the state you just experienced. In the coming days, the containment mode may try to return. You will recognize it when the breath rises into the chest, the solar plexus tightens, or the jaw locks without clear reason. When that happens, apply the micropressure to the sternum, release the breath through the mouth, and silently repeat, "I recalibrate now so my body can restore itself." Do not wait for the pattern to solidify. Interrupt it at the first signal, and the organism will learn that containment is no longer the default. The seal is now imprinted in the place your hand touched and in the memory your nervous system has just formed. Each time you return to this gesture, the path back to the regenerative state becomes shorter, clearer, more accessible. What once required conscious effort gradually becomes the body's natural response to stress. Self-repair stops being a rare event and becomes the result of a calibration you now know how to restore. The torso you inhabit right now carries a different memory than it did before the ritual. The breath has found a lower pathway. The solar plexus has released its armor-like tension. And there is a sense of presence in the center of the body that was once occupied by vigilance. These subtle shifts change how you perceive your surroundings, how you respond to stress, how you make decisions. The organism that learned to live in containment has now discovered that another mode exists, and that discovery does not disappear. What you experienced here is an entry point, not the full journey. There are other layers where containment hides, other regions of the body that hold old patterns waiting to be recalibrated. Each practice reveals a different territory within the nervous system, and the path back to the regenerative state becomes shorter each time you walk it. Self-repair is not a single event. It is a capacity that strengthens through conscious use. Rumi wrote, "The wound is the place where the light enters you." The area of your torso that felt densest, most guarded, most resistant to touch, was precisely the gateway that needed to be crossed. The containment that once protected also blocked, and the same region that carried defense now sustains openness. This inversion is not an achievement of the mind. It is the response of a body that has finally been given permission to change its logic. The source that animates every cell of your organism operates through this recovered coherence. When the nervous system leaves economy mode and enters a regenerative state, the creative intelligence that sustains life encounters less resistance to do its work. You do not force healing, you remove interference. What follows happens naturally, because it is the nature of what you are when you are no longer blocking your own flow. If this ritual brought clarity and a new sense of presence to your torso, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Share this with someone you recognize as living in containment without knowing there is another way. Consider becoming a member to support the continuation of this work that unites science and ancestral wisdom. And in the comments, write the phrase, "I leave containment mode and allow my body to restore itself." By placing these words into the world, you anchor externally the transformation that has just taken place within you. The journey of somatic reorganization continues beyond this video, and other practices are waiting to reveal what still remains held in your system. To continue, click the video appearing on the screen now. Remember, the body that learned to survive through repetition also knows how to restore itself. It was only waiting for you to discover where the key was.